I guess it would depend on what your other five guys in the lineup look like as far as ownership and upside.
I
I don't
can
want
tell
you
you
to
the
read off
guys
the entire
I've
list.
decided on are Hideki, Streels, and Wise are the guys I've decided on.
Okay, so you do have Wise in there. I think Wise is going to be a low-owned guy at 8,200. So, yeah, I go back to the well, man. Go back to Von Taylor. I can't tell you to get off him. The course sets up well for him. His ball striking numbers look great. Yeah, you got enough differentiation elsewhere in your lineup. So, yeah, go with Vaughn. Go with Vaughn.
Well, and also I like Sung Kang at that spot too.
Yeah, that's the other guy I was going to mention. I don't mind Kang at all. I think he's got some upside there for you at 76 as well. He's actually the guy that I'll be playing this week as a pivot off of Von Taylor. So I think Vaughn's going to be high owned because he's coming in with good form and a good finish last week. Kang is not. He had a miscut two events ago and then an MDF last week, which killed me with Griot and a couple guys. But yeah, I do think there's some upside there with Kang and some value in pivoting off of Taylor, but. Go with your gut there between those two guys, man.
Mm-hmm. I like that. I mean, this is an interesting range, man, because the numbers pop up here, and I get excited about it because I just love Charlie Hoffman and Von Taylor won me the money. But the other guys in that range. I mean, Mackenzie Hughes looks good for the course. Nick Watney looks all right for the course. As we get a little lower, there's a few other guys, but what do you feel about that range of guys?
I don't mind Watney. I don't know. I don't think he's done it quite consistently enough for me, but then again, he's 7,600 in this field, so how much do you really need from him? I guess Watney's a guy I've been burned on this year a couple times, so I'm probably a little bit squeamish when I'm trying to go click his name. But yeah, Mac Hughes is all right. I mean, Canadian guy, he's probably going to make the cut. I just don't quite see the upside there with Mackenzie Hughes that I would want to see. Mm-hmm. He just hasn't been very consistent with his ball striking. But if I was forced to choose between those two, I would definitely choose Nick Watney. But there's a guy that I like at 7,500 who I think is going to go very overlooked. Been pretty consistent here over the last month and a half, and that is Peter Malnati. I don't think we've ever said his name.
Nope.
On this show.
I thought you were going to say Martin Laird.
Oh, Party Marty. I mean, I can't ever tell you not to play Party Marty, man. It's just fun. Mm-hmm. It's Party Marty. No, I don't love Martin Laird though, but Peter Malnati, man, his ball striking numbers have been great the last month or so. He's the kind of guy that I feel like is kind of due to have one of those hot putting weeks and kind of pop up here in the top 10 or top 15. Mm-hmm. Guy's been making a lot of birdies. He's been very consistent with his ball striking. He's finished 30th, 31st, and 17th in his last three events. And yeah, I like the way his game's trending. That's a guy that I'm going to be playing some of at 7,500, as I'm expecting to be a very low-owned guy at that price point. So I guess I threw you off there, huh?
No, I thought we were going to talk about my favorite Scotsman, man.
Dude, I love the Scotsman. I got a little Scottish blood myself. I'm drinking a little what's it called, Scotch right now, and it's delicious.
So getting a little lower down the list there, there's still a couple of names to talk about. Cam Smith pique any interest for you?
I mean, you look at the name and you go, wow, Cam Smith, 7,400 in this field, but then you look at his recent finishes and then his ball striking numbers and you go, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense now. Like, DraftKings is trying to sucker you into playing him. I'm just not going to do it. We can touch on Matthew Wolff too. The recently turned pro last week, who did not make the Sunday. I guess he got MDF'd on Saturday like a lot of guys did. But Matt Wolff, I think, is going to be talked about, but he's not a guy I'm interested in whatsoever at 7,500.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk about Wolff and, the other guy that just turned pro.
Neiman? Oh, yeah, Victor Hovland, sorry.
Yeah, lots and lots of talk about both those guys on the webs. But yeah, Cam Smith is a guy that's had a couple of top tens and has the ability to score low, and it's a low price, but I think you're right. I think he's just not in form right now. So not really looking there. A couple of guys down here that are grinders, man. Play a lot of rounds. JJ Spawn, Danny Lee, Max Mahomie Homa. And any love for any of these guys? Maybe a Streels Steel double lineup.
A guy that I have a little bit of interest in that range is a guy that we have talked about before. He's kind of been off the grid here for a couple months, but JJ Spawn he's starting to show some signs of life here with his ball striking, and he's still a guy that I think will win on tour in the not too distant future, definitely in the next year, but he's starting to show some signs. I can get on board with some Spawn. If I was playing, let's put it this way, if I was playing 20 lineups, I would definitely put Spawn in a couple of them and be overweight at 10%. You mentioned Siwoo, Danny Lee, Max Homa. I'm not super interested in any of those guys. The one that I don't hate, at least for cash games, would be Michael Thompson at 73. I don't know. I got nothing exciting to say about him. It's just he's better on these shorter courses where he can take advantage of his wedge play, and I think this is a course where he'll be able to do that. So I don't mind Michael Thompson. I think he'll be very low owned as well.
Yeah, he pops up some of the top end of the putting stats as I'm looking. I'm trying to dig deep in this lower range here.
Yeah, I mean, there's a guy that we keep talking about how he's going to come around at some point, and he started to, which is Brendan Steele. Mm-hmm. Finished 21st last week. Generally, when his game's on, makes a lot of birdies. Made 19 at the Memorial a few weeks back. So I don't know if you want to take a shot on a guy at the lower 7K range who's probably going to be low owned, has some upside. That's not a bad way to go there with Brendan Steele.
All right, still, I'm just kind of going through here. Who's left to talk about? Let's not worry about it. Let's see.
Brian Stewart is the highest priced local guy. I heard some love about him before the U.S. Open and wasn't really.
Sorry, I'm reading. What's his name that does the Fantasy Alarm? Who does Fantasy Alarm? Who's the guy for them? Drew, right? Drew Phelps.
Sure.
He's got a note about Brian Stewart, and it says, one of the most boring men on tour.
I can't disagree with him, unfortunately.
He says because it's his hometown is the only reason why he's talking about him.
I mean, I truly heard some love for him before the U.S. Open. And
the stats here say 7th in fairway hits, 12th in proximity, and 5th in scrambling.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he made the cut and had a decent week, but I just don't see him making the amount of birdies that would require to do what he needs to make it worth playing him. So I don't know. I'm fading him personally. But hey, did you see your boy Zach Sucker last week?
My boy.
Yeah, a few weeks ago.
Oh, yeah. The Dick team.
He actually finished second last week. Had an awesome week. I saw him on the range yesterday. I said, "Hey, Zach, nice playing last week." He's like, "Oh, thanks, man." I almost wanted to say my co-host on Draft for Upside's a big fan of you, Mr. Sucker.
That's right.
But I know it's probably pronounced Suture, and I would have looked stupid.
I'm sure. True story. How about this, man? It's really, I've been messing around with Fantasy National. That's a lot of fun, just for the record. How about a guy that pops on POA greens at 7,000 flat? Alex Prue.
Oh, I did not see that coming.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. I honestly haven't looked at Alex Prue. He finished 20th last week, 21st at the U.S. Open. Mm-hmm. He's more so a European guy, I think, most of the time. Maybe not. I could be wrong there. He just sounds like
back-to-back top 25 finishes on courses featuring POA.
Alex Prue.
Of course. Careful now. If I am not mistaken, these greens are like 90% POA and 10% bent grass, so we can't take that too strongly, right?
Yeah, I mean, the POA thing, that really only comes into play later in the day when it gets a little bit bumpy. And I can tell you from experience, man, these greens, they remain pretty smooth into the afternoon. So I don't think the whole POA narrative is going to be really as important as people are saying. It's been said that the greenskeeper Jake Mendoza has been saying that they're gonna have him at 12.5 come the weekend. So I don't know. I think it's going to be fast and smooth, and the POA thing is not going to be that big of a deal.
I'm digging. All right. Well, let's round it out here, man. We're getting deep. I'm flipping through. I mean, there's this is actually a pretty big field of no name nothings at the bottom. Who else you got? Who's your deep value? Let's get down into these 6,000s, and let's dig.
Before we go super deep, I actually do like Troy Merritt at 7,000 even. Don't have much for you on Alex Peru, as you mentioned, but I think Troy Merritt, his ball striking numbers have been pretty good. He had a horrible Saturday last week after shooting 65 on Friday to MDF as well, but he's a guy whose ball striking numbers actually line up pretty well for this course. And I'll be taking some shots on Troy Merritt this week. Finished 17th at the Memorial a few weeks ago, so I can get on board with some Troy.
Dig it. All right. How about here's a name right at the top of the list we've talked about several times. Ryan Armour. What's your thoughts on Ryan this week?
Yeah, it's just he does not have the upside this week for me. Mm-hmm. He is a Midwest
Poston guy. Right below that. We talk about him a lot.
Yeah, Poston's kind of in the same boat for me. I want guys that can make a ton of birdies. These guys are not those types of guys to me. Poston's only made double-digit birdies in one of his last 6 events. When he plays well, it's at courses that play a little bit tougher, and you can get away with shooting 6, 7, 8 under for 4 rounds and still top 10 or top 20. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking more for guys with upside, like
friend of the danger, Taylor Gooch.
I don't mind some Gooch. Yeah, I like Trey Mullinax. Sepp Straka is actually a guy that I'm getting on this week. He had a horrible putting week last week, but his ball striking numbers continue to be good. He actually shot a Sunday 67 at Pebble a couple of weeks back, and I like the way his long-term numbers line up. So I'm taking a chance on Sepp Straka. He's Austrian. He's a monster. He hits the ball a mile. He can take advantage of these par 5s. So I'm on the SS Straka this week.
I like it. All right, brother. We're running out of time, so this is super digging deep. So who's got the if you're going bigger guys up top and you just need that like cheap dude to get you through, who's your GPP guy that you could take a swing at here? Who's the one that makes sense? Not necessarily a tipsy pick, but actually makes sense down here if you are going, say, stars and scrubs.
There are a couple guys I like down here. How deep are you looking to go? You talking
whatever, man. You got a guy at min salary. I'm happy. I don't know. Give me like 3 names, guys, here. Then we're going to get on to making some picks.
All right. Guy that I like in the mid 6K range, 6,400. Where did he go? Josh Teeter. He's actually been trending pretty well with his ball striking numbers. Finished 36 last week. He's a Kentucky boy at 6,400. I like Josh Teeter a little bit. I don't mind him for some GPPs. Mm-hmm. I'm not on your boy Highcock. I apologize about that.
That's all right. Yeah, he had his run with us. He's dead to us now. It's fine.
He did. Actually, this is one of the very few times I will ever say this, but I had a chance to meet and watch Luke Donald hit some balls the other day. I think this is a course where Luke Donald can do some damage at 6,700. He can take advantage of his wedge game. He's not going to get penalized for missing fairways as much as he does most weeks. So Luke Donald at 67. I don't mind. And then down at the bottom of the 6K, if you're looking for somebody really deep, we'll just go with a local boy. He is minimum price, late addition to the field. That is Matt Harmon at $6,000. It would be a Cinderella story, but the dude bombs it. He's been grinding it out on the Web.com tour for years. Matt Harmon, let's do it.
Any relation to the other Harmon?
No, I think Harmon's Harman, the Brian.
That doesn't make a difference to me.
No relation, though, no.
All right, fair enough. Dig it. Chris, are you doing picks with us tonight or what?
Picks, man.
Yeah, I'm going to do picks.
Hell yeah, man. I mean, you got to keep up or you're going to get behind in the point tallies I've been tracking.
Yeah, sure.
Who have you?
I mean, they're all on random paper somewhere in this office.
You have an office?
Yeah, I do.